This is Old Line Farmer Radio, a Maryland Farm Bureau production, helping you achieve your best farm future.
Hello, and welcome to the Old Line Farmer Radio. My name is Kendall Abrazizi, Regional Field Manager for Maryland Farm Bureau, and I'm your host this week. It's currently February 20th, and the average price of soybeans in Maryland is $10.05 per bushel, and corn is at $5.40 per bushel. This is the highest price for corn since August of 2023, and a positive development for our state's grain farmers. Grain bins play an essential role in agriculture, but can pose serious hazards if a farmer becomes trapped. That's why our friends at Nationwide Insurance are accepting nominations for rural fire departments to win grain bin rescue equipment and training. A former winner of this program, Easton Volunteer Fire Department Chief Sonny Jones, explained to WMDT News on why this equipment is so essential.
We felt that if there was an emergency, we were not equipped to properly handle it. So this equipment is important because it's designed to encase someone to prevent the grain from surrounding them so that we can remove it. It would be nearly impossible to remove someone, even only engulfed up to their knees.
We encourage our members to apply to this life-saving program from Nationwide by visiting grainbinsafetyweek.com. The Maryland Department of Natural Resources is promoting deer management options for Maryland farmers and landowners. The department has launched a resource page on their website with detailed instructions on how farmers can apply for a crop damage permit. Estimates show farmers in Maryland lose thousands of dollars each year from wildlife damage. Visit dnr.maryland.gov for more information. Our special guest interview this week is our very own Kevin Atticks, Maryland Department of Agriculture Secretary. We discuss how he is taking a value-added approach to the inner workings of the agency. Jeb Burchick has the story.
Old Line Farmer Radio, I'm Jeb Burchick, and we are here with the head of Maryland Agriculture, if you would say, the Secretary of Agriculture, Kevin Atticks.
Hey.
Thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here.
So, for folks that might not know you, can you just tell us a little bit about your career prior to this position, kind of in the value-added space?
Well, first thing I'll say, and I say this all the time right up front, I don't come from a farming background, but I come from a farmer support background where for the last 20, 23, almost 25 years, I've been helping those in the agricultural industry figure out how they can make more money, diversifying, trying new things. So working with grape growers to become wineries or figure out how to market their grapes. Farm breweries, creameries, folks from traditional farming backgrounds getting into the agritourism realm. So much of my background is in policy development and policy argument. Lobbying, legislative work, county zoning work, just trying to make sure that farmers who want to do things have the option to do things. If they don't want to do it, they don't have to do it. But to be able to take your family's creamery and at some point your family's dairy and at some point decide, okay, well maybe we want to pasteurize milk on the farm. Maybe we want to make ice cream, and just what an incredible difference that makes to the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is so refreshing to hear, and it's 2025 for a lot of farmers. Strictly selling their products wholesale might not cut it anymore, so that's such a refreshing approach to take to agriculture. So I'm curious, now that you're in this position, how are you bringing that value-added mindset to the department and helping farmers find new revenue streams?
Well, first of all, we are focusing on it. We're trying to institutionalize the entrepreneurship that comes in the industry. We've never met a farmer who wasn't out there trying to do something that's good for the public, good for the community, but good for their family, right? I mean, it's hard to be a farmer. The reality of the situation is we've got some of the strictest conservation and environmental laws in the state, so our farmers are already working harder than many farmers around the country. Combine that with all of the pressures we have because of just the high development needs in the state, the value of land. Farmers are under all of these pressures. We owe it to the industry to give them every tool possible, every pathway possible to make more money. When a farmer's profitable, they're a better conservation partner. They're a better environmental partner. They're a better community partner. When times are tough, any of those become levers going up and down. And we need to, we really as an agency and as an industry need to be figuring out, okay, what we're doing might be working, but given all of these pressures, something's going to give. So what are the options going forward? Because not everybody's going to be able to have 1,000 acres, It's just not going to be the reality.
That's a very cool and dynamic approach that you're taking, and for some folks, they might just have like a natural mistrust of government.
Yeah.
They read things online, they hear what they're saying in the media. I guess kind of quell those people's worries.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing to actually like help farmers, be their advocates here in Annapolis?
Well, look, and I get it. I understand why, because government, over time has shown time and time again that, you can trust, but you got to verify. You got to make sure that the government's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And to that point, one of the things that we're doing is leaning back into all of our boards and commissions, which either the legislature or the governor, the agencies have created over the years. And one of those that is very interesting, a newly created board and work group, is with the Department of Commerce and the Department of Planning. Two agencies that we work with, and farmers may not have any engagement with them, but Commerce is getting into the startup business, right? The business of starting businesses. Not just keeping the big businesses, but any small business that wants to get started or is having trouble, we're working with Commerce. We're on a work group and a committee with them to make sure that all agencies that are involved are able to help move forward. And those are the permitting agencies of health and environment, and you go down that list. There's also a work group and committee that planning has started under the direction of the governor to look at every permit and every license and every timeline and every fee and figure out, are we doing what we can to make Maryland more business friendly? Because we got a reputation, and we know that Virginia is great to do business in, Pennsylvania is great to do business in, DC is the Wild West, great to do business in, but we have a lot of restrictions. And so how can we lower them, streamline them, eliminate where possible, just to make it easier to do business? I would encourage folks to get involved in our Agriculture Commission, open meetings every month, but volunteer to be on the commission, which gets to hold our agency accountable. And we love that. It hasn't always operated that way, but we love the idea and the concept that every month they're there to advise us what's happening in the industry, but they're there to hear what we're doing for them. And so every month we tee up, what are the latest things, what are we hearing, how do we need the industry's help, what are we missing, from the industry's perspective.
Yeah, that's beautiful. All the agencies working together for a common goal. And
right.
Speaking of business and commerce, I'm just kind of curious, what's the largest commercial industry in Maryland?
It would be agriculture.
Thank you.
Yeah, the right answer.
Yes.
And here's why that's a huge feat. In most states, agriculture is the number one industry. The smaller the state, the more coastal the state, the more big city the state. It's pretty remarkable that we are still the number one industry. And when you look at why that is, it's because of some of our value-added industries. It is poultry. It is all the grains that are supporting poultry. It is the counting of the equine industry, which you may or may not think of as a sector, but it absolutely is. And the money that plows through that industry, in feed alone, and boarding, and training, and all of that, and that's that takes us down the path of why is a Pimlico redevelopment important? Why is managing HPAI important? Right? I mean, there's all of these things that become priorities for us because of the relevance of the industry to the state. And
that's so important, and it's great to hear that the government is paying attention to that, and despite some of the challenges we have, we're still working towards strengthening and growing this industry. Speaking of HPAI, I know that's probably the biggest issue you guys are handling right now. We've seen the kind of pace is slowing down, and maybe that's a testament to our farmers stepping up their biosecurity practices. But what are you guys doing here in the department to monitor and prevent these outbreaks?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I'll say is thank you to the farmers, the integrators, and the farmers for stepping up biosecurity. The absolute best means of prevention is keeping HPAI out of, keeping that virus out of the industry. And so that's one thing we're doing, is educating farmers, partnering with Farm Bureau and with Extension and DCA, right, the Delmarva Chicken Association, to make sure that the word is getting out about what it means to be biosecurity. And it's not just chickens, it's cows as well. It's dairy cows, where we've seen infections around the country. So look, we're kind of at the mercy of wild fowl, primarily waterfowl. But you also have vultures and raptors and others that get infected, and whether or not they succumb to it, there's a period of time when they've got the virus and their droppings have the virus, and their interactions with other birds, they can transmit it. And so we're kind of at the mercy of the non-resident birds, the migratory birds, and we need them to fly north. Like we're at the point now where we need them to leave. We need the weather to warm up. If we have, we're thinking 2 weeks of above 40, 50 degree weather, that's their sign to head on north. It's time to leave. And there will be a huge sigh of relief when they do. In the meantime, we're working daily with Delaware Department of Ag, Virginia Department of Ag, us, of course. USDA has been deeply involved. And then obviously all the industry partners. We've got multiple calls daily. We're getting updates. We have planning calls, operations on the ground. Since the industry, there are some backyard flocks that have been affected, but generally the industry is on the eastern shore in large part. And so we really move as a unit when dealing with the eastern shore. We've had great cooperation from the other states and from USDA.
Yeah, and that's it's the largest market share of agriculture here in the state is poultry and eggs, so that's super important, and it's really good that you guys are placing a priority on that. You mentioned your inner workings with different state departments of agriculture and the USDA. It's encouraging that we're not here just in the silo, just focusing on Maryland. But in your conversations with these other departments of agriculture, I'm sure you keep a pulse on agriculture nationwide. I'm just going to give you an opportunity. Why don't you brag about Maryland? Like, what sets us apart? I know there's a lot of practices that we're doing here that they're just starting to talk about.
Thinking about, yeah.
And we've been doing it for years. Brag about Maryland. What makes Maryland special?
Well, one of the things is that, when and every state commissioner or secretary has a right to brag, because all these industries, as I've been able to travel around for our conferences and meetings, all these industries are unique. But they have one thing in common, and that is the persistence and the dedication of the farmer. Now, I happen to think our farmers are the best because they're not only doing everything that they want and need to do, we hope, but they're meeting all the things that we ask them to do as well, because we're part of the Bay cleanup effort, and we've got climate goals in the state and other things that not every state is thinking about. Not to say we're farther ahead, but we're thinking in a way that is more holistic. And so when I talk to my peers, as I will next week, we're going to a conference, seeing them all, and we get to brag. We got about an hour where we can all brag. I talk about the table, and everything on that table can be from Maryland, and I'm talking all of the food, all the great veggies, paper products made from local agricultural products, all the way up to some really great wine, some incredible whiskey, right? All the ice cream and so on and so forth. And what I found is that every state has some diversification. Because of our development pressure and that need to find new ways to make profit, we've got such a greater diversity of products coming out of Maryland than most states. And so that's what I'm most proud of.
And we're proud of it too at the Farm Bureau. Secretary Atticks, I know you're busy, you got meetings all day, so I really appreciate you taking this time to speak with us.
Anytime.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Secretary Atticks, thank you for
Thank
coming
you. Appreciate it.
Maryland Farm Bureau is hard at work in Annapolis, fighting on behalf of farmers and government policy. But we can't do that job without the support of our members. Visit members.mdfarmbureau.com to join us today. With that, please give us a rating and review, and if you learned something today, please share this podcast with your friends. Old Line Farmer Radio is a production of Maryland Farm Bureau. Produced by Jeb Burchick, contributions this week from Kendall Abrazizi and Parker Welch. Introductions by Hollis Zimmerman. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you next time on Old Line Farmer Radio.